Tacoma mid-size pickup trucks made between 2022 and 2023.
Toyota just dropped a new pickup truck that's turning the entire truck market on its head, and nobody saw it coming. A trim that was never meant to lead anything is suddenly outselling rivals that have dominated for decades. And inside Detroit, the reaction hasn't been quiet. But that's only the surface. Because what's happening right now isn't just a sales surprise, it's a signal. One that could affect the value of the truck you own, the one you're thinking about buying, and the way every manufacturer moves next. So the real questions are these. What exactly did Toyota do? Why are buyers switching so fast? And what does this mean for the brands that thought they were untouchable? The sales earthquake nobody saw coming. Ford and Chevrolet never imagined they could be knocked off their pedestal by a truck that cost less, weighed less, and bragged less. Yet, the moment Toyota revealed its new cheap truck, the Tacoma SR5, the entire midsize segment shifted like the floor dropping out from under Detroit. This was not a quiet release. It was a seismic jolt. Buyers flooded showrooms with a kind of urgency normally reserved for clearance sales. And within months, the SR5 was outselling both the Ranger and the Colorado combined. The shock inside domestic boardrooms was immediate. Their most dependable categories had finally been cracked. The reason was brutally simple. Toyota delivered what Ford and Chevrolet refused to. A truck that felt honest, priced aggressively, and built around what real drivers needed. Not what corporate executives thought they should want. It was the return of a working-class hero at a moment when families were desperate for something predictable and affordable, and that affordability became a weapon. While domestic brands padded prices with trims nobody asked for, Toyota stripped away the fluff and released a truck that went straight for the jugular of the market. Ford and Chevrolet planned for competition, but they never planned for a takeover. And the takeover had only begun, because what followed this sales explosion was even more devastating. But this was not just a sales upset, it was a cultural one. And that cultural shift broke a rule Detroit believed could never be broken. The moment Toyota redefined the American truck. For decades, the American truck identity lived under one unwritten law: big engines, big presence, and bigger-than-life branding. Ford and Chevrolet built empires on that image. So when Toyota stepped forward with a leaner, cheaper SR5, no one expected it to rewrite the definition of what an American truck could be. Yet that is exactly what happened. The SR5 hit the market not as a challenger, but as a correction, a sharp reminder that capability does not need to be oversized or overpriced. Buyers who had spent years stretching their budgets for domestic trucks suddenly realized they did not need to. The SR5 offered the essentials, delivered with Toyota's quiet confidence without the bloated trims and unnecessary features that pushed domestic prices ever higher. It respected the buyer's wallet in a way American brands had forgotten to, and the cultural fallout was immediate. Men and women who had sworn lifelong loyalty to Ford or Chevrolet found themselves questioning whether that loyalty had ever been earned. The SR5 did not shame the traditional truck image. It exposed how out of touch it had become. When Toyota introduced a new standard, sensible, reliable, and accessible, millions recognized it as the truck they had been waiting for. Not the one they had been conditioned to choose. But culture alone did not topple Ford and Chevrolet. The machine itself did. And the machine's design revealed exactly why Detroit never stood a chance. If you're seeing how fast Toyota is rewriting the truck market, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment sharing which brand you think can survive this shift. Your engagement helps push this investigation to more viewers. The engineering strike that caught Detroit off guard. Toyota did not beat Ford and Chevrolet with louder marketing or flashier trims. It beat them through engineering discipline. The Tacoma SR5 was built like a pressure-tested answer to every complaint drivers had about modern trucks. Instead of inflating engine size to project strength, Toyota focused on delivering real-world performance with a powertrain designed for efficiency, predictability, and longevity. While competitors chased horsepower headlines, the SR5 chased usability and won. Its frame was lighter but tougher where it counted. Its engine was smaller but smarter, tuned for steady torque and everyday drivability rather than hypothetical bragging rights. And its layout eliminated the complexity that had crept into domestic models, keeping maintenance costs low and reliability high. The SR5 was not trying to impress journalists. It was designed to impress owners 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years down the line. And that was the part Detroit underestimated. The engineering philosophy behind the SR5 made the truck feel purposeful, almost intentional in every bolt and bracket. Buyers recognized it instantly because nothing felt exaggerated. It was a tool, not a toy. And after years of marketing bloat, that honesty landed like a breath of fresh air. Yet even brilliant engineering does not win a war until economics enter the fight. And economics were the battlefield where Toyota delivered the final blow, the price equation, that Ford and Chevy couldn't solve. Ford and Chevrolet did not lose because Toyota undercut them. They lost because Toyota understood the economic stress squeezing everyday buyers and built the SR5 around that reality. While domestic brands clung to rising prices and complicated trim ladders, Toyota did something radical. It created a truck people could actually afford without sacrificing what made a truck useful. The SR5's price was not just lower, it was strategically calibrated. The brilliance appeared not only on the showroom sticker, but across years of ownership. Fuel costs stayed predictable. Maintenance stayed manageable. Depreciation barely dented long-term value. Every economic pressure point where Ford and Chevrolet made buyers sweat, Toyota made buyers breathe easier, and those small assurances added up faster than Detroit expected. As domestic manufacturers pushed more premium features to justify rising prices, Toyota quietly delivered a truck that families could live with. It was not trying to be luxurious. It was trying to be fair, and fairness, in a market as strained as this one, became the most powerful advantage any automaker could wield. Ford and Chevrolet had built their strategies around brand loyalty. Toyota built its strategy around buyer reality. And that was the moment the SR5 flipped the market upside down. And that was the moment buyers realized the power they suddenly had. And the power they claimed would reshape every corner of the truck world. When choice becomes power, Toyota understood something Ford and Chevrolet overlooked. Buyers want a truck that fits their lives, not the lives manufacturers assume they live. The Tacoma SR5 became a phenomenon because it offered choices that felt personal rather than procedural. Instead of locking shoppers into a narrow path of trim levels or pushing them toward features they did not need, Toyota widened the field with a long bed configuration, multiple cab layouts, and a balanced set of options that made the truck feel tailor-made. This was not about luxury, it was about relevance. Many buyers who walked into showrooms expecting to compromise discovered that the Tacoma allowed them to prioritize cargo space, passenger seating, or equipment in a way domestic brands rarely made easy. The SR5 long bed, in particular, shifted expectations by providing genuine utility without forcing a jump to a more expensive trim. That freedom changed the emotional equation. A truck became less of a financial gamble and more of a personalized tool that adapted to real-world needs. By giving buyers agency, Toyota unintentionally rewrote the shopping experience in a segment long dominated by rigid hierarchies and packaged bundles. For many, this was the moment they realized they no longer had to accept what the market dictated. They could choose what worked and leave the rest behind. But choice does not mean much unless it saves you money, and Tacoma does. And that path towards savings began where every driver feels it most: the efficiency revolution that made Tacoma a no-brainer. Running a truck has always been a long-term financial commitment, and buyers increasingly weighed those ongoing costs more heavily than the sticker price staring at them from the window. Toyota recognized this shift earlier than most, building the Tacoma SR5 around an efficiency philosophy that looked ahead 5 and even 10 years. The result was a truck engineered to sip fuel rather than burn through a household budget. At a time when fuel prices fluctuated unpredictably and commutes grew longer, efficiency became its own form of security. Drivers switching from domestic alternatives noticed the difference almost immediately. Every weekly fill-up became a reminder that the Tacoma was designed for sustained ownership rather than short-term satisfaction. Beyond fuel, the carefully balanced powertrain reduced strain on components, lowering the likelihood of expensive maintenance. For families navigating tight margins or workers relying on their truck daily, these combined savings built a financial cushion that no marketing slogan could replicate. Toyota did not promise miracles. It delivered predictable costs, This clarity of ownership made the Tacoma a practical choice for buyers who once believed a capable truck required heavy compromises. The SR5 disrupted that belief by proving that capability and efficiency could coexist without forcing sacrifices. Still, buyers do not just want savings, they want certainty. And certainty is exactly what Toyota's reputation has supplied across generations. Reliability, resale, and the long-game buyer's trust. In an era when many manufacturers chase rapid innovation, Toyota doubled down on something far more valuable: long-term dependability. The Tacoma SR5 aligned perfectly with a philosophy that placed durability ahead of novelty, giving buyers a sense of security that competitors struggled to match. Anyone who has owned a truck for more than a few years understands how quickly repair costs and depreciation can erode the excitement of a new purchase. Toyota countered that erosion with a proven formula built on fewer failures, consistent components, and engineering that prioritized longevity over spectacle. What truly distinguished the Tacoma was not just reliability in the present moment, but the way it held value over time. While some trucks lose a significant portion of their worth within only a few years, the Tacoma's resale reputation turned ownership into something closer to a long-term investment. Families looking ahead recognized that a truck retaining its value helped safeguard their finances. Younger buyers understood that they were stepping into a vehicle unlikely to betray them with surprise repairs or sudden depreciation. Even longtime domestic brand loyalists admitted that the Toyota track record carried a comfort they could not ignore. Trust, once established, changed everything. And once buyers trusted it long-term, the surprise came inside the cab. That surprise reshaped how the entire segment defined comfort, tech and comfort. The phrase cheap truck once suggested hard plastics, thin seats, and a bare-bones interior built only for work. Toyota shattered that assumption with the Tacoma SR5, delivering a cabin that felt thoughtfully arranged, rather than cost-cut. Buyers expecting austerity walked into a space that balanced practicality with genuine comfort, creating the impression of a truck priced far above its class. For many, this was the moment they realized affordability did not have to exclude refinement. The updated interface, supportive seating, and intuitive layout made the Tacoma approachable for new drivers, while still satisfying seasoned owners who demanded durability. Toyota's technology choices focused on clarity and ease of use, avoiding clutter while delivering features that complemented everyday routines. Younger buyers appreciated the modern touches. Families appreciated the simplicity. Longtime truck owners appreciated that nothing felt unnecessary or gimmicky. This versatility allowed the SR5 to reach audiences who might never have considered a mid-sized truck before. What emerged was a new understanding of value, one where comfort and technology played supporting roles, rather than feeling like luxuries reserved for higher trims. Buyers realized they were getting far more than an entry-level experience. And while they embraced it, competitors started to panic. And that panic would ripple far beyond cabins and features, reshaping strategies across the industry. Chevy and GMC hit the inventory wall. Chevrolet and GMC entered the year expecting steady growth from the Colorado and Canyon. Yet they ran headfirst into a problem they could neither discount nor disguise. Their inventory began stacking up. Rows of mid-sized trucks sat motionless on dealer lots, each one a quiet reminder that demand had shifted beneath them. What began as a manageable slowdown turned into a full-blown gridlock as buyers walked past familiar badges and headed straight for the Tacoma SR5. Dealers responded with discounts that grew deeper each month, hoping to reignite interest. But the cycle only revealed how sharply momentum had turned. The Colorado, once a reliable performer, struggled to compete against Toyota's balanced pricing. Meanwhile, the Canyon, marketed as a premium alternative, found itself trapped between high expectations and a shrinking audience unwilling to pay more for what felt like marginal differences. These models were not failures. They were victims of timing and misjudged priorities. Chevrolet and GMC had banked on aggressive styling and improved powertrains, yet buyers were now choosing practicality over posturing. The longer trucks remained unsold, the more pressure mounted as carrying costs tightened dealer margins. Behind closed doors, regional managers warned corporate offices that the pattern was not temporary. Demand had not paused, it had migrated, and Chevrolet quickly recognized that no rebate or incentive could reverse a shift rooted in consumer confidence. Meanwhile, Ford faced a different kind of disaster. That disaster began where identity and expectation collided. Ford Ranger's identity meltdown. The Ford Ranger entered the market with a confident posture, leaning heavily on the heritage of a nameplate beloved for decades. Yet confidence turned into confusion as Ford attempted to reconcile modern demands with nostalgia-driven branding. The company struggled to define whether the Ranger should be a rugged workhorse, a refined daily driver, or a compact alternative to the larger F-Series. This identity tug-of-war slowed decisions, clouded messaging, and ultimately pushed buyers toward the clarity Toyota offered with the Tacoma SR5. Pricing only amplified the problem, as the Ranger's upper trims crept closer to the cost of full-size trucks. Shoppers questioned whether they were receiving proportional value. Meanwhile, the Tacoma delivered a long bed, four-wheel drive capability, and a compelling equipment mix at prices that undercut Ford's equivalent offerings. Rumblings inside Ford's product teams revealed hesitation about repositioning, worried that altering the Ranger too boldly might alienate longtime fans. Yet, failing to adapt alienated the very buyers they hoped to attract. This strategic paralysis allowed competitors to frame the mid-size segment's narrative. Toyota positioned the Tacoma as precise and purpose-built, while Ford appeared caught between eras, unable to fully commit to either tradition or transformation. And when giants hesitate, others move in, and those others saw an opening wide enough to reshape their entire playbook. If you want to stay ahead of every major move reshaping the truck world, make sure you subscribe. The next breakdown reveals how these decisions affect prices, reliability, and the trucks available to you. Stay connected so you never miss the next major update. New challengers smell blood in the water. As Chevrolet and Ford wrestled with shrinking demand, rival manufacturers recognized an opportunity that had been years in the making. Nissan, long underestimated in the truck conversation, saw the Tacoma's surge as validation of its simpler, reliability-first approach with the Frontier. Rather than chase luxury or push complex technology, Nissan leaned into durability and accessible pricing, appealing directly to buyers turned off by the escalating costs of domestic trucks. Hyundai, studying the segment from the outside, evaluated how a fresh interpretation of utility could attract younger urban buyers who valued efficiency and affordability over tradition. Even international brands without major truck histories examined entry strategies, recognizing that the mid-size category had become the most volatile and therefore the most vulnerable to disruption. The Tacoma SR5's success created a blueprint. Focus on real-world value, minimize unnecessary complications, and deliver features that align with modern lifestyles rather than legacy expectations. The industry's competitive energy shifted rapidly. New prototypes circulated through testing facilities, and redesigned models were pushed forward on accelerated timelines. The mid-size truck, once overshadowed by full-size dominance, became a battleground where reputation could be built or broken in a single product cycle. But the biggest shift was not in showrooms, it was in people's minds. And that mental shift would unravel decades of brand loyalty. America's truck identity is changing quietly. For generations, owning a truck in America symbolized loyalty as much as utility. Families passed down their allegiance to Ford or Chevrolet like heirlooms, tying identity to badges that felt permanent. Yet, the Tacoma SR5 exposed how quickly that permanence could unravel when economic pressures and lifestyle changes altered what drivers valued. Younger buyers entering the market with different expectations no longer viewed brand loyalty as a virtue. They prioritized cost, capability, and convenience, reshaping the emotional calculus that once defined the segment. Financial realities also played a critical role. Rising payments, unpredictable fuel costs, and shifting job patterns meant drivers needed trucks that matched their lived routines, not their parents' traditions. The Tacoma's balanced approach aligned perfectly with this transition, offering practicality without the inflated price tags that often accompanied domestic models. As buyers experienced the benefits firsthand, the generational gap widened, and decades-old loyalties faded quietly into the background. The most telling sign came not from enthusiasts, but from everyday drivers who simply wanted reliability without financial stress. Their choices signaled a profound cultural reframing. The truck was no longer a symbol of allegiance, but a tool chosen with intention. And this shift leads directly to a new kind of power, yours. And that power would influence not only purchases, but the future of the entire market, a buyer's market. For now, for the first time in many years, the mid-sized truck segment shifted firmly in favor of the buyer rather than the manufacturer. Competition intensified as brands scrambled to match the appeal of the Tacoma SR5. And that urgency translated directly into better pricing, more incentives, and a broader range of configurations for consumers to choose from. Shoppers who once expected to negotiate from a position of weakness suddenly discovered that they held the leverage. Dealers confronting stagnant inventory from domestic brands offered compelling deals simply to move trucks off the lot. This environment created a brief window where nearly every competitor was forced to re-evaluate how they priced and equipped their vehicles. Manufacturers who once dictated terms realized they needed to respond to a customer base no longer willing to pay premiums for features they did not value. The Tacoma's impact extended far beyond its own sales success. It reset expectations. Buyers understood that if Toyota could offer capability, comfort, and cost efficiency in a balanced package, there was no reason to settle for less from anyone else. Yet this surge in buyer power came with a caveat. Markets are cyclical, and conditions that favor consumers rarely last forever. Inventory will tighten, demand will shift, and manufacturers will gradually regain control once the shock of disruption fades. But the market is not the only thing shifting. Those shifts would catch the attention of an entirely different group, Wall Street's truck reckoning. When Toyota's Tacoma SR5 overtook its rivals, the reaction on Wall Street was immediate and unforgiving. Investors who had long viewed domestic truck divisions as stable profit engines were forced to confront the possibility that a long-standing hierarchy had fractured. Shares of companies dependent on strong truck sales experienced sharper fluctuations as analysts reassessed growth models built on assumptions now proven outdated. The mid-size segment, once considered a predictable corner of the market, suddenly became a focal point for speculation. Suppliers also felt the tremor. Companies producing components for domestic brands saw unexpected order reductions, while those linked to Toyota or adaptable to its production strategy found themselves in a more advantageous position. The ripple effect influenced everything from long-term planning to hiring decisions, reshaping financial forecasts across the automotive supply chain. Production schedules were revised as manufacturers recalibrated expectations, and investment firms began quietly advising clients to watch the segment more closely. The Tacoma's success did not merely shift consumer interest, it disrupted financial narratives. Wall Street understood that when a model redefines performance benchmarks, capital follows the momentum. Yet no financial movement occurs in isolation. And when markets move, politics follows. That political movement would draw trucks into debates far larger than the vehicles themselves. When trucks become political weapons, few symbols in American life carry as much political weight as the pickup truck. For decades, it has stood as a signifier of labor, tradition, and national identity. When the Tacoma SR5 surged ahead of domestic rivals, it challenged more than sales charts. It challenged the story many politicians rely on when speaking about American manufacturing. Some policymakers raised concerns about foreign automakers gaining ground, framing the shift as a threat to jobs and national pride. Others argued that competition, wherever it originated, simply pushed the industry to evolve. As the debate intensified, tariffs re-entered conversations, with proposals aimed at protecting local production or encouraging domestic brands to reclaim their leadership. Labor groups weighed in as well, emphasizing the need for stable employment and the risks posed by global supply chains. Yet, the public mood did not fully align with political rhetoric. Many buyers who chose the Tacoma did so not out of disregard for American industry, but because it fit their budgets, their needs, and their long-term plans more effectively than alternatives. This mismatch between political narrative and consumer behavior exposed a growing tension. Trucks were no longer just vehicles or status symbols. They had become tools wielded in broader ideological conflicts. But politics cannot stop what is already coming. And what is coming reaches far beyond today's arguments. Entering the post-muscle pickup era, the rise of the Tacoma SR5 signaled a transformation that extends well beyond a single generation of trucks. It marked the gradual shift from the muscle-driven ethos of power for its own sake toward an era defined by efficiency, adaptability, and smarter engineering. Future trucks will not be judged simply by displacement or bulk, but by how effectively they integrate advanced materials, hybrid systems, and modular platforms capable of serving diverse lifestyles. The formula that once dominated the segment is being rewritten in real time. Manufacturers are already exploring lighter construction methods, aerodynamic refinement, and powertrains that deliver capability without overspending at the pump. Hybridization, once viewed as a novelty in trucks, is becoming a central pillar of development as companies anticipate stricter regulations and evolving consumer expectations. The Tacoma's success highlighted that buyers are willing to embrace new paradigms as long as those paradigms offer reliability and financial sense. This shift opens the door for innovations that would have been dismissed in earlier decades. What emerges is a landscape where the mid-sized truck becomes the testing ground for technologies that will eventually reshape the entire automotive market. Efficiency is no longer a compromise. It is a competitive advantage. And the next battle, it is already on the horizon. The truck market is changing faster than anyone expected, and this is only the first wave. So before you head out, tell me in the comments, which brand do you think survives this shift? If you got value from this breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next major update.